In Central Africa, the landscapes are changing. Once freely roaming iconic African species, elephants and rhinos, today are more commonly found as a carcass rotting in the bush. Every 8 hours, one rhino is lost. Every 24 hours, 100 elephants. If this continues, species will get extinct within 10 years. The situation is not only an ecological crisis, but also a threat to national economy, heritage and security. Illegal wildlife trade now operates on a scale comparable to drug and arms trade. And it is not surprising, many of the same criminal networks and smuggling routes are involved. Disturbingly, evidence shows that the profit from the wildlife trade is invested to fund the conflicts in the Central Africa to maintain unstable situation, favoring resilience of criminal groups. Meanwhile, across the world, the tusks and rhino horns are smuggled from Bangkok to China, where wealthy Asian customers are willing to pay high price for their luxury products. The international community fighting illegal trade is hopeless to curb the situation to protect the species, and the current legislative measures established to govern the trade are proven to be insufficient. The CITES regime, established by the governments of the North in 1973 to govern international animal trade with a system of permits and certificates, not proven to save any species. This is both an ecological and governance crisis. We are lacking a universal approach how to govern and tackle the animal trade, and this is not surprising due to a number of conflicts. The global North carries the first responsibility to overexploit the wildlife of the global South since the first wave of European colonization. Some traded species were close to be lost forever. To address it, a new model was adopted: the conservation. In fears of overexploitation, hunting was restricted and trade of some species banned. These fence and control measures, however, in return only harmed the local communities in the South, who historically developed a different worldview coexisting with nature. For many, wildlife hunting is a way of life. In a narrative of conservation, however, it became a crime. Despite being rich with natural resources, Central African countries remain poor. This has led many to a lifestyle of poaching and wildlife crime. But here is a paradox. A ground poacher, who is seen as a criminal in the eyes of conservationists, is really just a victim trapped in poverty and unemployment. If not a poacher, the local community men often become the park rangers. We equip them with rifles and military equipment for the sake of conservation. We raise donations to fund them. While they join the effort for the sake of income, they equally lose their lives on the battlefield as the poachers they fight against, often leaving their families and kids behind with no hope for a better future. Meanwhile, China and its rapidly growing economy are changing landscapes of Africa, and conservation measures of the North are failing even more. China became the new power to deal with natural resources of Africa, funding much of its current development and infrastructure projects. In return, it demands to satisfy the Asian appetite for wildlife products, among which a rhino horn believed to have healing properties, and ivory believed to bring fortune and protection to its owners. Some campaigners see re-education is a key. The US-based NGO The Wildlife Aid invests millions of dollars into social campaigns to influence Asian consumers. But majority of Asians find Westerners' concerns about preservation of wild animals curious and funny. To most Asians, wild animals simply represent food, medicine, and wealth. And this is thousands of years of culture we are talking about. To change that might be equal spending millions of pounds, converting Manchester United supporters to Manchester City supporters. These are not good news for the species that find the end of their story on the Asian market. And human appetite is stronger than any legislative or market regulation mechanism put in place to control animal trade. Rather, the opposite is happening. The trade with animals is booming, as is the Asian economy and welfare. In Asia, no legal institutions are in place to really punish or disapprove the trade of species. The agreements like CITES become a mask that covers the real issue underneath it. We end up at a crossroads with conflicting powers, interests, narratives, and even normative institutions that bring a divide for universal strategy how to govern animal trade. Species evolution will remain and continue despite the presence of humans. But sadly, it took us only a few decades to endanger species inhabiting this planet for more than 50 million years. If we do not change the story, they might become part of our history.